Hi, and welcome to the Math Together show, where thoughtful educators gather and learn together. I'm Dr. Sue Looney.
I'm Heidi Subnani.
I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Robert Kaplinsky.
I am so excited for today. We are here with my friend Robert Kaplinsky. We are thrilled, and we are going to get to it in just a little bit. So thank you for being here. And we have this question that you're going to help us out with. We're going to be chatting with Robert about what he would like to change about math instruction. And then for all of you watching, he's going to talk to us about how he can help you transform your teaching. So thanks for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a fun opportunity to do this live.
Yeah,
It's great. Welcome, everyone. I hope that there's people out there listening to us. If you are out there, please say hello, hit like, share. As always, we are going to be sharing resources with you later.
And if you have questions for Robert that you've been wanting to ask him, go ahead and put those in the comments too. And Molly is our moderator who does an awesome job of making sure we pay attention to those. So definitely put them in. And if you're not watching live, we can still take care of those questions for you.
So Sue, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was a new event that we have happening here. One of the problems that we've been encountering with a lot of teachers that we work with or districts is that we're having some difficulty streamlining the curriculum for this school year and considering what is critical learning and what is not. And so we have an opportunity on the Looney Math page for you to sign up for a new event. We'll be working with groups of teachers by grade level and really helping you make some decisions around how we can think about and streamline those math decisions that we're making for this school year. Additionally, you can join us at the Math Together community. We're always there to support you in that way. And then also, if you're thinking about, I have this question or this thought that I need to think about or get some feedback on. Right now, we're doing Math Together coffee chats with one of the three of us, Molly, Sue, or myself. And we will spend some time with you chatting about that particular problem and try and help you come up with a solution as we go forward. So if you are interested in that, let us know as well. And we are happy to set up a time in a virtual coffee space with you so that we can share those conversations together. So thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, so if you go to the website, there's an events tab. And if you click on events, that's where you can see that opportunity to work like in a group setting. And then if you just want to have a chat, there's no cost for that. And you can just go into contact us and set that up. So everything is there for you. And then, of course, the Math Together community, we just really feel like people shouldn't be alone right now. And if you are needing an additional level of support or some people around you, we're having some really great conversation in there. So we hope you'll check that out. And that you can also get there from the website. So let's get to it. We are here with Robert. And so here's how you can find Robert on Twitter. So I am, like I said, so grateful and so happy that you're here today, Robert. And I have the pleasure of going through your introduction. So I'm going to just acquaint our audience if they aren't familiar with the amazing, fantastic human being that you are. So Robert has been an educator since 2003 as a classroom teacher and a teacher specialist with the Downey Unified School System. He's been an instructor at UCLA, and he is a presenter at conferences all around the world. He co-founded the website Open Middle, and he's been published in Edutopia Education Week, and most recently has been published at your new book, which is so awesome, Open Middle Math, Problems That Unlock Student Thinking. And you created the hashtag Observe Me movement. Woo! And you're also the founder and president of Grassroots Workshops. Wow.
There's a little bit going on.
There's
really boring.
Right. So no doubt a lot of people are familiar with your work, and so maybe people have questions. So it's great because we have an opportunity for people to ask away or just sort of give us a thumbs up if you're familiar with Robert. If you've used Open Middle before, if you want to just type Open Middle rocks in the comments, then we'll know and we'll send some love your way. I am curious, because I'm always talking about being curious. And as we're getting to know our guests, we want to go a little deeper, before we get to what's current, and understand what is your why, right? Like why education? Why working with teachers? Why mathematics? Why are you sitting here today doing what you do?
Yeah, that's a challenging question to unpack. I think a lot of it stems from not wanting to repeat the same kind of K-12 education I had as a child. When I graduated from high school and I went to UCLA and I got a degree in math, and I think at that point I was like, I know everything there is to know about math. And the rest of you're laughing because you know where this is going. The rest of my career has just been unpacking like how freaking little I actually know about mathematics. And those moments where you can do the math, but you don't really understand why it works. And then having to kind of confront, like, does that actually matter? Like if I know to invert and multiply, but I have no freaking clue why I invert and multiply, do I actually understand dividing fractions? And then when that just happens to everything that can't be what we want for our children. And be real, that's how I was teaching my students because that was how I was taught. That's what I was familiar with. And so I think that, at some point I went from, I'm just going to keep repeating these mistakes to, well, there's got to be a better way to, okay, these ways work. And now I just want to share those. So I'm really passionate about trying to just give students a better opportunity than maybe we had as children. I think that, how do you reconcile the fact that the vast majority of the K-12 mathematics that we teach, no one ever uses in their life? And at the same time, there's so much mathematics that we desperately need to be able to use right now to survive. And we don't spend that much time teaching it, whether it's statistics or problem solving.
Right.
So I think that we have lost our way in math education. And really, I like to close the spaces between what we have and what we want. And that really drives my why in all aspects of life.
Yeah. I love what you said. It's so poignant now, right? Like today, July of 2020, when you say we've lost our way. And so like, I've asked you to go back in time, but it's more relevant now than ever. So we've lost our way. So I feel like we have an opportunity actually right now.
Yeah, one thing I think is, let me see if I can get the context just right. This next year is going to be brutal for everyone, no matter what your circumstances is, right? So I'm going to make the statement that expectations for teachers in this next school year will never be lower. And now I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be freaking far from easy. But I'm saying that if you just get through the year and they don't necessarily learn every standard, people will understand the expectations. People are not going to condemn you if every single thing is not done perfectly. So quite possibly there will never be a better opportunity for the rest of our careers to press the reset button and re-examine what we do. Like I taught 2 lessons online last week, and it was rough and humbling. But one interesting takeaway was that it takes me about 3 to 5 times as much time to get the same damn stuff done.
Yeah.
So think about what that might imply is that you will only get 1/3 to 1/5 of your content standards taught next year, or you're going to teach everything 1/3 to 1/5 as much or as deep, which is terrifying. And the reality then is, how will you decide what your year looks like? Are you just going to teach until time runs out and I guess everything that is at the end of your pacing guide doesn't get taught? Or are you going to be strategic and think, these are the things that students absolutely have to know? Because I think that as a culture, we have been really doing status quo bias. We keep doing it the same way because that's the way we've always done it. When in reality, it's not really meeting a whole lot of people's needs. And I think that it's time to take that step back, have the tough conversations because the alternatives are not so great.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting though, Robert. Oh, sorry, Heidi. I think you're absolutely right. And then we probably are going to face some harsh criticism for a reset because parents often don't understand, the new math and and any type of reset which is different from how they learned is viewed as being wrong.
Yeah, James Tanton, I don't know if I can do justice to the way he phrased it, but we confuse familiarity with what's best. So we might be familiar with, say, doing homework after school each day, but that doesn't mean that that's the best way to teach children. But we're just familiar with it, and we think that maybe that's not a good thing if we change. And I'm not necessarily saying reset equals change the standards that each state has. I am saying is no matter what, I guarantee you, every teacher is going to run out of time to teach all the standards they would normally do in person. It's just going to happen. Every teacher. I'm not saying it'll be 100 standards, but it might be a few or many. So if you don't want it done to you and you would like to have control, which standards would you say are the ones you could live without the most? And which ones are the ones you would really, really expect them to need? And I'm telling you that if we don't have these conversations, then you're going to have kids going to the next grade level that have like the most peculiar foundational skill set because every teacher taught different things. Like that is the reality that is going to happen. I'm not saying it's fun to have the conversation about what is taught and what's not, or maybe we're not going to do homework or grade homework and that will save time, right? But if nothing changes, then we will have a disaster of our own creation.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I mean, we have this very unique situation where as parents, we have a close-up look at one event of school that's happening, and as educators, we have a look at another, or we have windows into other ways and thinking about it. And I think, it is that piece of, I think when everything shut down, at least on our end of the coast, it shut down in the middle of March. There was like this time of triage almost, like hospital terms, where we're putting out fires and we're getting something out, right? We're getting something done. We're going to review, and then things changed a little bit week by week as to what the expectations were, and then it was like, oh well, we're not going back, so let's do new things. And I think now we look forward and we still feel some of that panic, right? Oh my word, we're possibly not going back. But okay, so then how do we want that to be different? How do we want that to look different? What opportunities do we have to engage students in different ways and still hold on to the good teaching practices that we have? I think all of us work with teachers around that, like really, okay, what are those teaching practices that we want to hold on to, and how do we do that in this space is really stressful, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's leaders' job to facilitate these challenging conversations. I mean, avoiding it is not going to solve this problem. It's going to be there whether you like it or not. So if you want to have control, now is the time to have those conversations.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that leads us sort of into our focus of what we were going to talk about. You're talking about changes and having an opportunity. So maybe we can sort of get into our core question here.
Yeah, so what would you like to change about how things are currently done in math instruction? And then how can we really help others transform their teaching during this time?
Gosh, I don't know. I could do a whole 3-day talk on this.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right, where do we want to begin? Let's start doing some quick hitters. I love how Marian Dingle mentions this idea that like we need to stop talking about our low kids and our high kids. Like
yes.
That's not really useful. And let me just kind of unpack this, because if you're a fan of open middle, you maybe have seen this. And even if you're not, you may have had these moments where, you're teaching the quote unquote low or high kids. And then you have this moment where the high kid isn't really doing as well as you thought, and the low kid is doing great. And what I have found from using problems like open middle problems is that when I think a student is low or high, it speaks so much more about my own biases than it does at all about those children's. Like, for example, sometimes we think a kid is high because they're really good at being compliant and just chugging through worksheets.
Yep.
And then the kid who we thought is low just freaking hates doing worksheets, which I think we all do, but really loves problem solving. And so when you get a problem that is not necessarily have a defined path, but is a really interesting problem, that quote unquote high kid now becomes the low kid. And if that's happening, then it doesn't say anything about the kids. It says everything about the way we teach math and our own biases. So that's the first thing I'd like to change. I mean, gosh, trying to walk the line between like reality and politics and education. How can we ignore the reality that there's data that shows that, at least in the United States, we're not doing a particularly good job of managing this pandemic? And I'm going to say that part of this is data literacy, that people are looking at the same data and drawing drastically different conclusions. Like I graduated from math from UCLA with a degree in math. I've never taken a statistics class in my entire life. Like, how the hell did I get this far in life without ever having that? I think spending more time teaching problem solving, spending more time teaching data literacy, spending far less time teaching all the damn bullshit that no one ever uses. Like, when did anyone ever use anything from Algebra 2 or pre-calculus or calculus or geometry? Maybe algebra.
Right.
You spend all this freaking time on stuff. It's a gatekeeper. It prevents kids and it funnels these kids in and those kids out. And it's BS because it doesn't actually matter. And so I'm just so tired of it. And there are so many children who could be amazing, but because of the classes we've chosen, the standards we put in them, which literally, if any of you are saying that you've used a proof in real life, you're full of it. Like, no. Geometry, why? So I just think that we are so stuck in our ways, but we need to change what we teach and how we teach it. And we're doing so much gatekeeping. Like, you can't, like, historically, like, the STEM science, fields and math have been filled with like white men, right? And there's a lot of gatekeeping. Like, what are the factors that we need to look at? I mean, there's this whole idea of like, can we all go through a quick thought experiment?
Sure.
Schools don't exist anymore. Tomorrow they're invented. We have to make all these rules and laws and structures. Do you really think we're going to come up with the exact same thing? Like, are all classes 50 minutes? Do we only have, these standards? If everything has to be done from scratch and we don't come up with the same thing, then that implies that what we're doing now isn't necessarily best. It's just what we've always done. Right. And I think that there are so many discipline, everything. There's so much about what we do that's not about what's best. It's about, let's just keep doing it because it worked for some kids.
Yeah, you're right. And Ellen is chiming in right now. She's saying those are the courses that often drive decisions in districts. And we all know that those decisions, when they come down to students being the gatekeeper, like you were talking about, those decisions like make or break your relationship with the community. And right now, we cannot afford that. We all need to come together and work together. So those are archaic decisions to have to make.
But I'm wondering, so Robert, you brought up that, using a proof in geometry. I can't say that I've ever done that in real life, okay? But if we took and I think sometimes this is where we get stuck, right? If we take the logic of proofs and we apply that same idea of problem solving and looking for evidence and critiquing the reasoning of others and applied it to things like digital literacy and statistics, and we have that same lens, but we look at it from something that we actually would use in real life, we would actually use to help support thinking and to make decisions on a much grander scale. I think that's something that we have an opportunity to do now that we are not always going to have if we don't grasp onto those things now.
Yeah, so it's not my intention to say that there's absolute no value. What I am saying is that there are things with much greater value.
Yes.
A lot of times we teach problem solving like, here, learn this one skill, and when the time comes to use it, use it. But you've never freaking had an opportunity to apply it, so the time comes, like, you're not like, oh, if only I knew, how to add polynomials right now, it'd be perfect right now, right? No one says that because you don't have that. I think that one of the things that's really important is giving students problems in as authentic a situation as they might experience it in real life. A lot of times we, dare I say, sanitize problems, like all the icky parts where like you don't really know what the interest rate is going to be or how long. I mean, like, do any of us really feel comfortable with our retirement plans right now? Right? You don't know so many things. And in a textbook, every one of those things would be known. You would know how many years, what the interest rate is going to be, but that's not the way the life works. And so no one's really prepared for real life.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you also make the connection about, you started by talking about not labeling kids and referring to them as low or high. And that led you right into this idea of what really is important. And I was listening to Dr. Chris Childs speaking on a thing he's doing last night. And he said, do you really believe in the brilliance of all children? And if we do, then we would let them lead the way and then lead them into the future, which means, like maybe 2 column proofs are not where it's at, but stats really would matter right now. So it's there's such a great opportunity that we really can't let slip by.
And I think this is a time for that vertical conversation in ways that we haven't had opportunity before. I think, and Robert, I may be wrong, I think it was when we were in San Antonio, you had a meeting it was at NCSM, and it was a meeting in the bookseller area that you were saying, oh, there's only going to be a couple people who come because we're going to talk about that vertical alignment of do we need all of these things? And I think there was 50 to 75 people there, and there was no mic, and you were just standing there. I remember you went, okay, this is a bigger topic but everyone was there. There were elementary teachers to college professors, and we were all having that discussion. And I think you were on target for this is an issue that we see. We make decisions in districts based on what we feel kids are going to need to get into the college that we would hope them to be able to. But then the college folk are saying, well, that's maybe not so important. I would prefer that they learn this. So then who becomes those gatekeepers, and why do we continue to make these same choices over and over? And I mean, colleges, same thing. They're not going back traditionally. We're not going back traditionally in many cases. We have this opportunity to have these conversations now, I think.
Yeah, well, things are going to look really different in high schools. It's this doing a hybrid model in a high school is quite a challenge to schedule. So there are opportunities right now to make some crazy changes. My kids got a list of courses that won't be offered this year.
Wow.
Go
ahead.
If I was making $1 billion a day, I would appear to be amazing at budgeting, right? But it's only when I'm making $100 a day or $50 a day where you're oh, I pretty much suck at budgeting. When things are going great, you don't really see the problems that are masked below this. When some schools have are bragging about 60% proficiency rates. The other end of that is that 40% of your kids are not having their needs met, right? We were never perfectly set up, right? And that even assumes that the test is great. So I mean, I could go on forever, but yes, take this opportunity. Do not really do not let this opportunity pass you by, because you will never get, I hope for God, we never have a pandemic like this again, where you get this opportunity to really just re-examine everything.
Yeah. So let's get to the second part of the question.
Yeah.
How can you, Robert, help teachers transform their instruction? So I know you've referenced problem solving, and we've talked about open middle, and maybe that's a good place to go next, or I'm not sure. Where should we start on that part?
Yeah. So if you're a math teacher and you're looking for what is the most accessible way to start changing class to better align skills that kids love, skills that kids need, and skills that I can actually teach online or in person. And the place I'd recommend you start is called Open Middle. So the website is openmiddle.com. And on this website, you will find problems that help kids build their procedural skills and conceptual understanding, but at a much deeper level. So if you're into depth of knowledge, the problems are depth of knowledge level 2 and 3. But the crazy thing is that they lead to great conversations. Kids love doing them. They give you X-ray vision about what kids know, so you can spot these hidden misconceptions. I actually just taught some 8th graders using the problems, using a problem from Open Middle last week. Like, I'm not going to lie and say it went fantastically. I think any lessons online these days are going to be challenging, but there were definitely some really great connections kids made and great conversations. So I would definitely recommend you check out Open Middle. If you are experienced with it, there are lots of new problems being added every day. But if you're like, this sounds interesting, how do I learn more? When you go to the website, in the very center of the page, we kind of made this like PDF of our favorite problem from every grade level from kindergarten through calculus. And it includes a hint and the answer and why we love it, the grade level, the standards, everything. And so you can just click to download that, and then it will arrive in your email. So that's really how I'd begin with that. I have a book called Open Middle Math Problems That Unlock Student Thinking, and you can find that online. I've also got a mini workshop to help you learn how to do this with specific examples from K1, 2, 5, 6, 12, and even really how to teach it online, and that's on Grassroots workshops.
And while you're chatting, a lot of likes coming in. So I know a lot of people are familiar. And Molly, I know, you've done a lot of work in classrooms specifically.
Yeah.
But if you could, so Open Middle, the name means what? Can you just give us a brief definition, and then people will be curious enough and know where to go to learn more?
Yeah, I think that we often say, oh, I love these open-ended problems, but sometimes people say open-ended when they really mean open-middled. And let me explain what I mean. A problem has a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like, say, a video game like Miss Pac-Man has a beginning, a middle, and the end. The beginning is you start at the bottom middle. The end is you get the last dot or you die. But why? And that's kind of the same always and boring. What's interesting is the middle, like which way you're going to go, what path, will you be chased? How will that work? The same thing happens in math. When you all start with the same problem, then the beginning is closed. And guess what? If you all end with the same answer, it's a closed-ended problem. But what's interesting is when the middle is open, when there are a lot of ways that you could solve it. So when you have problems that are closed at the beginning and end, but open in the middle, you have these great conversations about how different students use different strategies to get the same answer, and how are those strategies connected is really beautiful oftentimes.
Great.
And I agree. I've used them a lot with my middle school teachers. I think lots of different teachers love them, but middle school teachers don't always love professional development. And when I bring Open Middle to them, it's almost always the thing that they will hold on to. Really love watching it happen too. It's
so weird how they're harder or more challenging the problems than you're used to, but addicting. Like, I don't necessarily fully get why, but just they feel both attainable and a challenge you actually want to kind of rise to the meet.
Agreed.
That's such a good definition almost of what it means to problem solve. It's attainable and yet a challenge. I mean, that's why we love math, because we get to have that experience. There's an emotional and human moment that's happening there. People don't think of math as emotional, but like it is. It's, we have this stereotypical view. So I love that descriptor.
And I think Open Middle in particular, a conversation I've been having with some teachers this week, can translate well to a virtual environment. And I say that obviously I would prefer it to be in person with kids gathered around a big piece of paper and putting out, but in thinking about how those skills translate online using things like Jamboard, where kids can still have those sticky notes and move them around and have those conversations. I was speaking with a number of teachers this week, and that was kind of our plan, is when we have those opportunities, we can still be hearing and seeing and thinking in the same or similar ways that we did in a face-to-face situation than we have in the past. And so that's something to think about. We have a question coming in. Molly, do you have that?
Yeah.
I will add one thing that within the last few months, we added a few more things to make life easier for teachers using Open Middle remotely. So we now have so we have this thing called the Open Middle worksheet. It was previously just a PDF, but the PDF is in English, Spanish, and French. Now we have Google Doc versions of the Open Middle worksheet. So you've got a Google Doc version of it in English, Spanish, and French. We also have PDFs of the number tiles. So Students can print that out if they would like. I've also made a template where you can have draggable number tiles. There are pros and cons. I've also taught it using Google Sheets with Pear Deck, and I actually recorded a video of that, and that's inside. You can see that inside of the Open Middle mini workshop on Grassroots Workshops, but I think kind of seeing what that would look like might be helpful for some teachers.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's take that question, and then I'm going to come back to the grassroots and how people could take a deeper dive if they really want to become like experts and really fully unpack.
Yeah. Ellen is asking, any thoughts on how you can get people that are entrenched, like the school leaders, to make those changes or see the need for change in the first place?
How much time do we got?
Not enough.
Okay, so I'm gonna just. It's exactly as hard as you think it is. So let me kind of say something. There's this pool game, like a swimming pool game called Sharks and Minnows, and the way you play the game is like someone will swim across all the people except for one are minnows and the other one's a shark, and the shark has to catch one of the minnows and bring them up. And when there's only one minnow left, that person wins. I was playing that, except I was a shark and all the teachers in my district were the minnows. And I think that I thought I could just go after the one minnow that everyone listens to, but I swam for years and never caught anything. I was exhausted. And what I learned is if they don't want to work with you, don't waste your time. Go after the people who want to work with you. Because what happens is that they start doing well and make them rock stars, make them so successful that it becomes awkward to say, yeah, because right now in their mind, a lot of times what they think is, yeah, what you're doing is nice, but my way works pretty well too. And when that gap grows and you're making the people that want to work with you so successful, then other people will come not because you've twisted their arm into it, but because they want to. Now, this is a long game. It takes years, but that has been truly the only successful way of doing this that I recall.
And that probably plays into a little bit of your experience with the Observe Me movement. So we set up classrooms of excellence and we open up our practice. We build, just like we want to do with our children as students, we want to build from a place of strength. So that's a tough nut, Ellen, and we could spend a whole lot more time, but I hope that gives you somewhere to begin. Were you gonna jump in, Heidi?
Yeah, and I was just, wondering, when we think about math leaders specifically and or district and school leadership, sometimes I wonder, no one wants to be left behind too far back, right? So most people in leadership positions, and this is not all by any stretch of the matter, but often want to be seen as innovators and or trying new things and or cutting edge, I guess, in that way. So sometimes it is maybe bridging that gap between like making a good argument for what that might look like and the reasons behind it, and then also pushing them into that space, I think is sometimes is a challenge for all of us. And it is, we can have it, Student Line 1 talks about pockets of excellence versus a system of excellence. And I think that's what we're all really striving for, is that all the kids that we come in contact with, regardless of their situation, has that system of excellence.
Yeah. So I think inviting all those voices to the table is really critical. Yeah. Let's talk about the opportunities on Grassroots Workshops to sort of learn more about Open Middle and maybe other things that might be there because educators will be interested in knowing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about rethinking what it's like to be a student, but what is it like to be a professional learner, right? I think that we're expected to differentiate for our students, but whoever differentiates professional development for us, right? It's often we're learning from someone that we didn't choose, we're out of our classroom, or if we're gone, there's so many issues. It's too expensive, or with travel expenses and things like that, or you have to deal with a sub nightmare. I mean, I don't know what subs look like now. But Grassroots Workshops is a website where you can get professional development from the leaders that you know, like, and trust. They're primarily math education right now, but they are expanding into both like technology and social justice. One of the most amazing instructors there is Dr. Sue Looney, and she's got a workshop coming out this September for like TK2 teachers in kind of building number sense through counting. I've got workshops there. There's a number of amazing educators there. But if you've been, all the workshops are asynchronous, which is pretty damn convenient right about now when you need the flexibility to not have to be in front of your computer at a specific time. So if you're looking for workshops that could help you meet your needs, every single one of them will be discussing like, how do you actually do this online? Because guess what? That's our freaking reality for a while. So if you're looking for really quality, affordable professional development this next school year, I would definitely check out grassroots workshops.
Awesome. And there's one module on there that's specifically on open middle. That's one of the ones that you're offering. So tying it back into that conversation.
Yeah. I made a mini workshop. We have regular workshops that are 6 weeks of content and mini workshops that are like 2 to 3 hours of content that, like, what my workshop is how to use an open middle problem. So, if it's today and you want to use it on Monday, you can probably find 2 to 3 hours in the course of a weekend or so. So it's designed to, for $39, be able to give you the skills you need so you can use it right away.
Awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground. We started with why did you go into this in the first place? And now we've landed here, your latest project. Is there anything else that we were hoping to get out as a message, sort of what do we want to change about education and how can we help others transform their teaching? That did we cover all our bases? Are there more things or closing thoughts?
I guess in closing, I'd just say, like, have grace. Like, be kind to yourself. It is going to be unreasonably challenging. Like, I love win-win situations. This is freaking lose-lose for everyone. Like, if your school's in person, that's freaking hard. Like, I personally think all schools should be online this upcoming school year everywhere. But if it's not in person, it's also hard for the families, right? And the livelihood. Like, I think everyone just has to be extremely graceful and patient because we're all putting our best effort in, and it's a very challenging time. So if things don't go the way that, like, it's much easier to say this than it is to do it. Like, I taught those lessons that didn't go anywhere close to what I was used to. I got like a fraction of what I wanted to get done. But I knew that I was putting my best effort in. So realize everyone's struggling. It's not just you, and that we're going to get through this.
Yeah, I love that. I think those are perfect parting words. You can find more from Robert too on your main website, robertkaplinsky.com, and that'll link you to all those other various things. So thank you so much. Every time you're talking, I was taking notes a little bit, and I'm always learning, and I know people really appreciate hearing from you. So thank you so much.
I appreciate this opportunity. It's been fun chatting.
Great.
Yeah. We always enjoy listening and learning with you, and really appreciate you being here. We want to just remind everybody as we're beginning to close up that we talked at the beginning of the show about how we make good choices about the math content that we teach, right, this next year. And they're all hard choices, but if you would like some help and assistance with that and a support system, we have 2 options where you can do that. One is a course that we're going to be running here that will help you really streamline that curriculum using inputs and research from other experts in the field, so that we can think about, okay, what are the critical things that students need to be learning in this year? How can we best provide instruction for them that will be both engaging and meet their needs? Second, if you're looking for long-term, other than 3 course, or the 3 days for the course that we're running, support, we would be happy to see you in the Math Together community. Remember, the first month is always free. You can check that out there, and we hope that you'll join us. We always have new content dropping every month where you can learn new things and interact in new and exciting ways. The opportunity to design your own professional development and receive credit for it is there as well. And so that's one of those things that we were talking about, having that opportunity for differentiated professional development that is meaningful to you. So that is an option as well. And then finally, we have our coffee chats. If you have a problem or a concern that you would like to speak with one of us about, we are happy to help you with our virtual coffee chat, where if you go to the Looney Math page and sign up under Contact Us, we would be happy to set up a meeting with you and see how we can best support you going forward in this really trying and difficult time that we're all in.
Yeah. And Molly, for our show for next week.
Yeah, and last but not least, next week we will have Christina Lincoln Moore here. She is going to discuss social emotional learning and the importance of that now more than ever. So we look forward to hearing some tips about how we can do that from her. We have all heard her speak, and she is a delight. She's
amazing.
Very calming. So tune in next week on Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Robert, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And remember to be kind and always to be curious.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.